Nice.
How's it going? Good
Alright,
people.
we're back.
We're back. I'm Fainer.
I'm Peas.
Welcome back to Yooper Reviews. As promised, we got the today we're doing a review on the Squier Jaguar, and then alongside obviously the Squier Strat. So
Exactly.
yeah. So this one, Ashley's going to tell you a little bit about it in a second, but I do have to say that all of the options that you have available for tone are unbelievable. But we'll get to that in a minute. So, Ashley, tell them a little bit about this.
So this is the Squier Vintage Modified version, which is basically they designed this to look like the vintage a vintage Squier, but also have some modern touches to it. So, for instance, at face value, you can't really tell that it's a modern guitar. It's got the old style bridge on it, but it's got the new style pickups on it, and I believe it's got newer style tuners on it.
Yeah, the machine heads definitely look really new.
Yeah. But other than that, I believe they just designed it to make it look like it's almost one straight off the showroom from 1962, which is actually when
they came out with
the Jag was originally introduced, and I believe it was originally introduced to be sort of a step up from the Strat. And then everybody played it and they're like, yeah, that's not really, it's just not as good.
Yeah.
There's a couple things with the Jag. I've always really wanted one. I think they're freaking badass looking, and I've never been a huge fan of sunburst finish, but I just think it looks badass on this guitar.
You like the shape of it.
And I like the shape of it. I like all the switches. I just think it's freaking cool as hell.
Yeah.
One of the biggest issues that people have is that the bridge, it's actually the bridge is designed to sway back and forth. So when you're using the trem arm on there, it's designed to go back and forth so that you don't actually just slice your strings. Because if you can see that on the camera, it's actually got like grooves.
Ribs.
Yeah, it's got ribs on the saddles, and the saddles don't actually line. I don't know who designed this, but they don't actually line up with where your strings are. So on your
makes sense.
on your outside strings, your strings actually have a tendency to go right over the top of the screws on the saddles, which then can just, that's just gonna shred them.
It's just gonna grind or create a weak point on the string.
And not only that, but these things they actually can slide back and forth as well. So that's one of the first upgrades people usually do on these guitars when they first get them.
Change them to different saddles. Saddle types,
but
not a bad idea. That's the first thing I thought when I saw it. I was like, what is going on with the saddles?
It's kind of you can basically just take the string and move it to wherever you want it on there.
Yeah.
Which then of course changes how they are, where they are up here. And so I've actually seen a couple people online that are making custom made bridges and saddles for these guitars, which are pretty sweet. And at some point in time, I'll probably pick one up that actually have the proper alignment so that your strings are in line. Because what happens is a lot of times you're playing, your strings will jump on you, or the bridge will either rotate a little bit forward or rotate back on you, get buzzed or whatever. But other than that, I love this guitar. I think it's awesome. It is the easiest guitar I've ever played. I've only been playing for just over a year now. I picked this guitar up a couple months back.
That was awesome. I ordered the Jag.
Yeah, I picked it up. It was $300. I think I got it from Musician's Friend or Guitar Center. I forget which one I ordered it from.
I think it was Musician's Friend.
Was it Musician's Friend? Yeah, I think it was Musician's Friend.
Musician's
Friend. But it's a short scale guitar, which means that the distance from the bridge to the nut is actually shorter than your average guitar, I would say. So if you compare that to,
you probably see it.
If you compare that to Strat's actually
see it.
Yeah, look at that. That's a big difference. What's the Strat? 25?
Strat is 25 and a half.
25 and a half.
Yeah.
This is a 24-inch scale.
So,
which means that the strings aren't stretched quite as tight. So
it is very
loosey-goosey. It's so easy to play.
Yeah.
The strings are so loose, and it almost is just like, it just kind of like plays itself.
If anybody's ever done like drop C or like open like C, like that's what it feels like. It's just like
they're just like flopping around.
They're just they're
like wet noodles on there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it makes it so easy to play. The one downside to that is because the strings are so loose, even the slightest bit of pressure can change the tone. So you can go from like you just be playing along or whatever, and all of a sudden if you've ever done that before, you play it and you hit the string just a little bit too hard, you can change the tone.
Yeah, you press down too hard and then like the pitch goes off a little bit.
Yeah, so you can do that really easily on there because the strings are so loose.
Watch, you can hear. I'm gonna play a D and I'm gonna press really hard. Watch. You can hear it. That's crazy.
I mean, you can basically do that on any guitar, but it's so much easier to do on there because the strings are so loose.
The aside from those certain things about it, obviously you'd have to do a little bit of a number on the bridge and everything, but the options, like I was saying earlier, that they give you for tone are just like pretty extravagant.
There's a lot of cool shit.
There's actually even on the bottom here, there's 3 switches. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. There's 1, 2, 3. They go up and down. The one that is closest to the bridge is a high pass filter. If anybody knows what that is, you're more familiar with it than you actually think if you've ever heard techno music. But it cuts out the low end.
Or if you've ever had a car stereo in your car and you want to cut out the bass to like your smaller speakers, which we used to do that all the time back when I was a kid.
Tweeters.
You had to cut the bass out on your smaller speakers, otherwise you just blow them right out. So that's where you had to have crossovers, which is basically just a filter, out there.
That one fucking song, the I'm Too Sexy. It does it right there. Yeah, so anyway, so you got a high pass filter. And then these other 2 switches are to activate either the bridge pickup, the neck pickup, or both at the same time.
Right.
And the other thing is that this whole area, this area is separated from this area by a switch that activates. If it's down, this is what is governing the sound.
And that's your lead tone on the bottom.
Yep. And then if you flip it up, you got your volume right here, which is a little wheel on the inside there, and then your tone over here. So, yeah, and then your tone and volume knobs right here. But
so you get all kinds of options.
You get like a ton. Like I was actually kind of blown away. And this thing is like, if ever there was such a thing as sounding extra stratty, that's where this guitar would actually kind of fall in, because it sounds super twangy. I think I got my tone on. So, anyways, I'm gonna go to the bridge. Woo! Turn down the level. Woo! I'll show you. So right now I'm in the neck position. I've got a little bit of distortion going, but even in the neck position, it still sounds twangy. Like, you know what I mean? Like that sounds like you're playing like in the bridge position on like a Strat.
Yeah.
And then it gets even crazier when you go to the neck position, or sorry, the bridge position. It's like guitar-y sound. It sounds extra stratty. Like,
it's so funny because when you play that, I can hear the strings just go. They're just flopping around.
I don't know if this is the way, because it is factory, so we have. Oh, there we go. I moved the string. God damn it! Got my toe stuck in one of the bottles. All right.
These are the original strings that came with it. They're super thin. They're like angel hair thin.
Yeah, these are probably like 10s or 9s. These are probably like 9s or something like that. But yeah, I haven't done anything. Did you? You said you intonated this, right?
But every time you play the bridge moves, so it's like you. Yeah.
Also, the other thing too that can either be a burden or a blessing is the tremolo arm. Now, if my partner here will hold this for just 1 second while I retrieve the problem that I'm talking about here. The tremolo arm, like normal strats on the synchronized tremolo, normally what you do is you stick it in here and you when
you screw it in.
You screw it in. But this one, you're all set.
It just slides in.
It just slides in. Now, I say it's a burden or a blessing because, like you just saw, like, some point in the video, it fell out and I didn't even realize. So, it fell on the ground, I don't know. And whether or not that is something bad or good for you, it's probably bad if you're playing live and then you go to reach for your tremolo arm and it's not there and it's
long gone.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, it's crowd surfing. The other cool thing is that you can have your neck and your bridge on at the same time, like any other tone switch. And that gives you your bass, your sound.
Right.
And then here's the other cool part that Ashley was telling me about. So the high pass filter. So this cuts out the lows. So here's. So not as exaggerated on the neck,
yeah,
but with the bridge. Here, do it again. There you go. You can hear it. It sounds like it goes from like to.
What do you? Is that a G?
Yeah, just G.
Play like an E.
Okay.
I don't know if it's just because we're sitting here you can't hear it as well, but when I was over there I could definitely.
Yeah. It's like it's pretty. You can definitely hear it. Yeah. It's let's see if I had distortion on, so let's try it. Oh, here we go. Check it out without distortion. It's just muddying it up. You can hear it. It's like
you can totally hear it.
Yeah, it's almost like what I was just learning earlier today for no good goddamn reason was it sounds like it's going in and out of phase. So look that up on Wiki or something. Yeah, so it gives it gives it a little bit more of like a like an E vowel and like cuts out the O's, if that makes sense. So it's more sharp more than bold. So here you have sharp and then bold. So it's like a mini tone switch, kinda. So.
One of the other things that I've heard people do a lot with these guitars is because it's a short scale and because the strings are so loose, is you can get away with putting heavier gauge strings
super
on there.
heavy. Oh, yeah,
because you don't, it's looser. You don't get it's not as hard to play. So I think that's what I'm gonna do next is put some heavier strings on there and just see what kind of sound we can get out of that.
That'd actually be pretty cool.
Probably be pretty cool.
Throw some Cedar 15 gauges on here.
Something, yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it sounds really good. If you want to, a guitar is a guitar, and it's all about the player. I mean, even Ted Nugent still plays a hollow body. He fights with it all the time on stage with distortion, but he loves it.
All right.
So, there's certain things, especially with guitar, where it's just the nature of the beast. This one, like we talked about, it's short scale. The strings are a little bit looser, but hey, maybe that's your thing. But overall, I think it sounds really nice. And
let's do a little comparison.
All right.
Let's switch over to rhythm.
All right. So up.
And then let's just do like a was that a G?
Yeah.
I'm all the way up here.
That sounds bassier. This is 20. At least in the rhythm position.
It's more mellow.
Yeah. Definitely when you flip it down, it's like super trebly.
Alright, go ahead.
Alright, go down now?
Yeah.
Alright.
So I got it.
So this is my neck.
Okay.
Bridge, sorry.
You got it on the bridge. This is my bridge, which is a humbucker, so a little bit different. But.
It's almost the same, actually.
This is a little bit brighter, a little bit more twang. But that's very similar, I would think.
It's like really similar. These are, I don't know if you said it, these are Seymour Duncan single coils. That's a DH1 humbucker. And then just American standards for single coil pickups. But yeah, that sounds really, really similar.
Switch it to both up. And then do you have the bass filter on or off?
Nope,
you got it off.
It's off.
Alright, so let's try that.
That sounds really full. Huh, that sounds really super cool.
Alright, should we play a little something, and then.
Oh damn it! I fucked it up. all right, yeah.
Let's do a. You tell me, and then I'll let you kind of play around a little bit.
Okay. All right. Go. E to G. Let's do an E to G. Anytime what you say. Overall, even with distortion, it's a pretty twangy guitar. It's like super twangy.
Yeah.
Not to sound repetitive, but like it's extra stratty. So yeah, I didn't really go over like the whole like range of tone that you can get from it, but you get the idea.
Right.
So
I love it. The craftsmanship on this guitar is phenomenal. There's no way to know that this is a Squier other than this right here. I mean, maybe if you put it side by side with an actual Fender Jag, but I mean,
it's
the quality on this is pretty nice.
Yeah, it is pretty nice.
There's
Aside
no
from
flaws.
the corrugated piping for the saddles.
But you get that on the Fender though too. That's as far as I know.
Oh man, well, somebody was hungover when they made that design.
Yeah, I don't know who thought that was a good design, but
either way,
so
these things are you know, like you can take them out and throw in like, you know, Strat ones or
they just
whatever.
slide right out. It's not like you have to like screw them in or screw them out. They just slide.
Take out the whole bridge plate or something like that.
So if you're changing strings, boom.
Yeah.
But
other than that,
yeah.
It sounds pretty. It sounds pretty good.
It's a nice guitar. I really like it. So,
hey Sam,
should we?
Hey Sam.
From Clarissa.
Clarissa explains it all. Every time I laugh. Hey Sam. Alright. Yeah, I guess I can play them out now.
Alright, so alright, let's see. I'm gonna give you a
Playing them out? Playing them out? Every jam?
You play.
Okay, right. Nice solo?
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, here we go. Here's this bridge. Holy aluminum. Sounds like we're playing in a beer can. Now the rhythm section. Go. Here we go.
Until next time.
Until next time, I'm Fainer.
I'm Peace.
Don't forget to subscribe.
Subscribe. See you next time on Yooper Reviews.